Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video and a bit of a different one here today regarding ERS, and this is going to be a tutorial on the F1 2018 game of how exactly the ERS works. Now, if you didn't know, in this year's game, unlike F1 2017, ERS is a brand new feature that was added in, and it's an element on the MFD, which is the little box in the bottom right corner where the rich mix, normal and lean mix fuel mixtures have been in the past, and you've got an extra option now for ERS. Now, the ERS is the battery deployment coming from the engine to give you that extra horsepower, which is so important for these V6 cars. Now, essentially in this year's game, the big change is that this year, unlike in F1 2017 where it's automatic and you couldn't do nothing about it, in F1 2018 it's now manual, so you can actually control your ERS deployment the same way you control your fuel. So the same way in the past we had lean, standard, rich and max for fuel mixtures, now we have ERS modes, and the ERS modes start from 0 up to 5, with 0 being none, number 1 being low, number 2 being medium, 3 being high, then 4 is overtake, and 5 is hot lap. So 6 modes, and you have to control all 6 of these, along with still controlling the lean, standard and rich mix features. So there's a lot of management you have to do, and a lot of button controlling this year's game, especially if you have it on manual. Now there is the option to put on automatic for those of you that don't want to do this, so this is not forced upon or obligatory for everybody, only for those who really want to. Now I know for those who are in league racing this year, this is going to be a must. The same way you can control your fuel manually, you want to control your ERS manually for maximum benefit. So I'm going to walk you through the elements on the screen right now in terms of the steering wheel in itself. Now, as you can see, we have 3 main elements here, well 4 really. The first one is 100%, which is how much battery deployment you have left. Obviously right now it's at full, so you have 100% battery to deploy. On the left hand side you have a bar which is white, and it has the letter D, which means deployment. This bar essentially resets every single lap, and what it does is it shows you how much ERS you have consumed over the lap. So that bar will gradually go down over the lap. So essentially it's giving you a live sort of visual representation of how much battery you're deploying and how much you're using. It's a very simple one. It's not too hard to understand, and it's not very important to read into. I personally do not use it because it's not important to me. The one on the right, which is in yellow, which is currently empty, stands for harvest. Essentially how much battery you save over the lap. So it's the complete opposite of deployment. These 2 bars go hand in hand, and they both reset every single lap. The harvest, what will happen is the yellow bar will gradually fill up. Instead of empty, it will fill up in the color yellow, and it shows you how much you've been able to save over a lap depending on how your ERS management goes. Now those 2 bars are the least important ones because obviously they reset every lap and you don't really look at them that much when you're racing. The main one is the one below, the blue one, which like I said goes hand in hand with the 100% consumption. So the blue bar, that will gradually go down as the lap goes on. It doesn't reset. This is constant for the entire race, so you have to manage it. It's like a race along curves, and it's up to you to regenerate it basically. On the bottom right you can see a little number which says number 2. Right now that's the default setting for the ERS, which means it is in medium setting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the track and I'm going to show you some examples of how the ERS is used in this year's game, and the most effective ways of using it, especially because I got quite a few comments of people saying my driving and my use of it was wrong, especially when I first got the game, but I now know how to use it, and I think it's worth pointing out for those of you that don't know. So with that being said, let's go onto the track and let's get on with this tutorial. Okay, so right now as you can see we have the usual MFD options with the fuel mix, which still has lean, standard and rich as per usual, but we now have the ERS deployment option. Now right now I have it on none. Now I'm going to explain step by step in which scenarios I would use each one, because from my experience, what have I learned and how is the best way to use this. Now the only times I would use none, I would say, is in those parts of the track when you've got an advantage over the AI. So off the top of my head I cannot think of an example or a circuit, but let's say for example now around Spa, this particular circuit that we're on right now, let's say going down into Pitlane right now, you've got an easy 10th or 10th and a half on the AI cars. What you would do, or what you should do really, if it's a good advantage and you're going to maintain it, you put it down to none right before you enter the corner, and you rely on just your sheer speed and cornering speed to really carry the momentum through. Then on the exit you'd probably go up to medium, and then again say you're fast into this corner, you go down to none, save some ERS while you're not actually accelerating, and then you gradually build your way up, so into low and then into medium, and then again back down to none for the brake zone. And this is also when you're really needing to save the battery. So if you're deep into the race, you've been racing with cars and you need to save the battery badly, you need to know your places on the lap when you can really run it in none and ultimately save a lot of battery power. Now when it comes to low, this is the one that I like to use the most in terms of when I'm saving battery. It does the job for me, because none, you do notice a massive power loss. So with low, this is, for example, a situation I'd use it, and I'd come into the bus stop chicane, and it's a perfect time to keep it in low. And if you're battling with someone and you've got DRS on the car ahead, you could easily just leave it in low, open up the DRS on the home straight while leaving the engine in standard, and you could probably get away with leaving it in low, whereas with none, you'd probably still get overtaken. Low is a very interesting setting because it does do the job. You do notice a power loss, however, it's not as effective as none, so you will recharge a lot less battery, but at the same time, you will still maintain a lot more speed than with none. Now, if we go into medium, this is the standard setting. It's the one that I use the most. There's two ways of looking at this. You can almost run an automatic ERS management in this year's game just by leaving it on medium all the time, so you will get a nice balance. However, there are some tracks where just leaving it in medium is not enough, and you do have to save the battery. Most tracks, though, you could probably get away with keeping it in medium, and you won't be too bad, and every now and again you probably have to save the battery. It's the safest option, and it's the one that, you know, if you're not wanting to do too much management, or you're not confident enough to do the management and also race at the same time at maximum speed, it's probably a good option, and you could probably just revert to leaving it in medium and going back to the usual fuel mix modes of standard, lean and rich. Now, for me personally, this is when it gets interesting. With high, it's not a mode I use very often. The only time I'll use high is in certain tracks, when basically what happens is, with medium deployment, you still have a full battery every single lap, like you're not using any ERS whatsoever. So around certain tracks, like for example I noticed around Hockenheim, I will leave it in high for the entire lap, and I'll do multiple laps in high because ERS consumption is not very high at that circuit, and it's very easy to keep it in that high ERS mode, and then eventually after 6 or 7 laps you probably have to save some battery. So there's that sort of unique trade-off in different situations that we have. Personally speaking, like I said, I don't use it that much. Normally what I'll do in most races, I will probably run in medium, and then when I'm going to overtake someone, or I'm trying to run up a move, or I'm trying to make something happen or close a gap, I will go straight up to hot lap and overtake, which are the next two modes I'll get into. And then for certain situations when I am trying to save battery or trying to, you know, cool down, or if I've got a gap and I'm sort of not really attacking or defending, it's a good opportunity for me to save the battery.
Time moves you into P7, P7.
So I'll use low instead, and basically I just keep alternating. It takes a lot of practice. You do notice the engine power, especially when you're running a slower car in career mode. When it comes to online with equal performance, I'm not sure what the situation is because I've not tested it, so that remains to be seen for me personally. But now, if we talk about the other ERS modes, we have overtake and we have hot lap. These are the two ultimate modes. Now, in qualifying, this year's game, the ideal thing to do, you will get put on hot lap, and they expect you to do your whole lap in the hot lap mode. However, I've found in qualifying, just like in the race, if you, for example, are qualifying around this circuit, you will use hot lap, and hot lap is effective, at its most effective, from gears 1 to 5 included. So gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, and gear 5, you want to use hot lap. However, gears 6, 7, and 8, you're better off using overtake. Now, it says it in the name, it's designed for overtaking, therefore it's going to give you a higher top speed. Hot lap is designed to give you more acceleration off of the corners and that initial sort of response time on the throttle. So what you would normally do, for example, if I was to go into this next corner, I'd leave my car in hot lap mode and just take the corner as normal. If this was a qualifying session, I'd try and attack the corner. Right now, obviously FP1, no real grip here. And then on the exit, now I'm in gear 6, overtake, back down to hot lap again, pick up your apex, on the power again, up into hot lap, into overtake, and just keep it there basically all the way on this back straight. And you can see in the bottom right, the deployment, it goes down quite a bit, and this is going to give you the extra top speed in overtake. This is the fastest ERS mode you have. If you combine this with some rich mix, you're going to be really quick. Now into the bus stop again, down to hot lap or up to hot lap, because you're on a qualifying lap. You want to make sure you have the best acceleration, so you feed it through the bus stop, straight on the power, and you give it some with hot lap mode, open up the DRS, and then now gear 6 into overtake, back down to turn 1.
P2.
You go down to 3rd gear, put it into hot lap, get the power on, accelerate yet again, up to overtake. And this is only in qualifying alone. If you're on race trim, this is what I'll normally do. So you're going through a rouge, overtake, maximum power. You want to really max out your speed through a rouge as I get a bit of a slippy back end. And this is when it really comes into its own. If you pay attention to the bottom right, especially for league races, you'll see where this becomes a challenge, because I'm in standard now, into the brake zone, down to low, you go down the gears, pick up your apex, up to medium now, picking up some momentum, up to hot lap if you can, and then now on the exit, up to overtake, then back down to low again, down the gears, apex, on the power, nice and slowly. You can probably get away with keeping it in low through here. This is like a good section to keep it in low, save some battery, then on the power, up into hot lap, and then into overtake yet again, then into here, put it back into hot lap, down the hill, keep the momentum going, back into hot overtake. You could even combine that with some rich mix. You're really maxing the engine out here at this point. Then you could even run some lean mix, and what happens is if you run in lean mix, I'd say leave it in maybe high. This is where high comes into in its own. I normally tend to run high, like I mentioned, in races where ERS deployment is not too high, so you could actually go into high instead of medium. And it's also a good opportunity to save some actual fuel, because the idea in this year's game, you mix and match. So say for example you've got +2 laps of fuel in the car, it's a good chance to save battery and run it in rich mix and balance it up, so that way you do not lose pace and you do not lose straight line speed. Same principle applies the other way around. If you haven't got much battery deployment, if you have loads of battery deployment left and not much fuel, you go into lean and you run the high ERS mode, and it's all about mixing and matching, and essentially it will get to a point, and in my opinion I've already noticed it, when it just goes absolutely berserk. So every lap you're constantly changing the dials all the time. I'm doing it right now. I've got to a point where I can do live commentaries of videos and it all works for me. So as you can see, I'm changing the dials here all the time, just constantly trying to maximize the speed. I'm currently, let's say I'm on a qualifying lap, I'm going to try and maximize the dials. So I've got rich mix flowing, overtake mode engaged. You want to save battery for the lap, down to none, maybe because I've got no battery left, so put it into none and rely just completely on your speed to try and carry you through the corners. Then back up into medium because I don't have much battery left, down to low again or none, get down to turn 8, pick up your apex if you can, and then again keep it in none because you've got no battery left. This is where the rich mix will do the favor for you. Now you've got some battery, you can go up to hot lap, then overtake, down the gear through pull on, keep it in overtake if you like, carry the speed, and essentially it's all about mixing and matching, guys. So it's a real experiment. It's something very new. I think it's going to take, if you haven't done it before, which I understand everyone that starts off with this game is going to have to learn, especially if you want to keep it on manual. It's a real learning experience. So it does take time. At first I was basically running medium for most of the time because I wanted to be just pretty happy and safe. And to be fair, I still quite like running medium just because I can relax. When you're constantly looking at the MFD, along with driving at the same time at a high speed, and in my case commentating for a video, there's a lot of things going on, so you have to be prepared. And as you can see, I'm running it with the engine pretty much off, lean mix, and none on the ERS, because this is a good opportunity to save fuel. You save your 10 seconds clear at the top of at the front end of the pack, and you've got a bit of time to kill. It's a good chance to save the fuel, save the battery, and it makes it interesting, especially as well when you go into the pit stops, pit lane action.
Last lap moved you into P13.
It's important to leave it in lean and none in the pit lane, especially the ERS. Make sure you put that in none in the pit lane. You do actually recover quite a bit of ERS in the pit lane, so it's very important. You can see on the delta how much I'm losing by running it in the lowest mode. The time in the delta is just going away from me. Look at this. But then if I crank it up to the max into overtake and rich, you can just hear the engine pick up. So it's absolutely incredible how much of a difference it makes, and it's all about playing around with it and finding what works for you. So yeah guys, I think I'm going to end it there. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and it's a very interesting thing this year, and I personally absolutely love it. It makes it so much more interesting, so much more of a challenge, and ultimately it makes you a lot more, it does increase your skill level, I feel, because you're having to do more things at once, not just racing the car around the circuit. You're managing your car in more than one aspect, which used to be lean mix, standard mix, and rich mix. Now you've got all the ERS modes, and you still occasionally have to tweak the brake bias and also the differential. So there is a hell of a lot going on this year in the cars in F1 2018, and personally I love it. I'm going to do one more test here, so as you can see, I'm going to get up to speed and lean, I'm going to go quiet, and I'm going to max it out in a second.
Kimmy's in P4 at the moment.
And there you go. got on the grass a bit, but you could hear the difference in speed. The car just picked up speed. And into the pit lane, you turn your settings down before your pit entry. That way, you're going to save ERS. Watch the ERS bar as you come into the pit lane, and you'll see what I mean. The ERS bar gradually grows up in the bottom right. You can see that bit by bit, and it all adds up. It all adds up, you know, all the way down the pit lane and even up to the pit exit. You know, you leave it on as long as you dare, and then put it back into medium. And ultimately, it does pay off, and it does work. And once again, going back to the bars on screen, you can see the deployment bar in white, which is how much we used, and the opposite is the yellow, which is how much we saved. So they they go hand in hand with each other. And we have 45% battery left at the moment as things stand. So next time we go onto the track, I think the battery probably will be on 45%. So we're going to have to go on the track. No, there you go, back onto 100. So maximum battery next time we go on the track. It only recharges in the pits once you come back in. But overall, guys, I'm still learning personally. However, I feel like I'm starting to get the grips of it. And hopefully this tutorial was helpful. Hopefully you get an idea of just how much goes on in the cockpit now in F1 2018 and how much messing around with the engine dials, you know. I might throw a little clip in from one of my Cremo videos, especially around Austria. Austria was a track where I was doing a hell of a lot of messing around with the dials, so I might throw that clip in a little bit earlier on in the video. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have found it informative, then drop a like. Do get subscribed for daily Formula 1 content. Turn on notifications. And also finally, check out these 2 videos on screen. If you have any questions, guys, leave them in the comments down below. And I'll make sure to get back to you. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.